No, I could go to the proper scene, though. Hey, that one works better.
Oh, no!
Oh, wow. That one's fun.
Talk about boobies.
There we go.
Boobies. Boobies.
There were plenty in this one.
Plenty? I
Plenty.
don't know that I'd go so far as to say plenty.
Yeah.
There were some.
There was some.
It could use more.
Yeah, you could always use more.
All right, let's get a quick sound check, Faye.
Hi.
Dread. There we go. Monica.
Oh!
My
Yep.
ears.
Don't know what that was, but thank you.
I was warming up. Isn't there going to be a singing portion of the show tonight?
Oh.
Perhaps. Perhaps, maybe, and I don't know. We'll see. Okay, let's see. Everything's good there. Everything's good here. I have a tasty beverage. I have a sleeping Bella
So do
behind me.
I do not.
Facing us.
No, it's cold now. It's getting into cold season, so now she sleeps curled up in a ball. She now
She's
sleeps
shrinking.
under the blanket with me at night.
Down
Because
by
she
the sea.
she has to curl up under the blanket against me for body heat. She sucks away all my body heat during the night. All right. Oh. Get rid of those. All right. So we are going to start in a 3, a 2, a 1.
Out from the night, from the mist, steps the figure. No one really knows his name for sure. He stands at 6'6", head and shoulders. Pray he never comes knocking at your door.
Hello and welcome. Welcome and hello. This is Wait, You Haven't Seen? And it's the show where we talk about movies, and specifically, we talk about a movie at least one of us has never seen before. I'm your host, Travis, a.k.a. TV's Travis. This is episode number 188. And our movie this week is Repo, the Genetic Opera. And here to talk with me about it, the wicked old one, always getting into trouble, the Dreadlord.
Oh, no, that's me. That was surprising. Hi.
The endearing and wicked kitten.
Hi.
And Phelan. How you doing?
Hi.
Y'all gotta learn how to improv, man. Roll with it. Doing a bit, you gotta
I was
roll
having
with
fun.
it. You were
was
fun. You
those
were having
two.
fun. So, okay, we are watching Repo, the Genetic Opera. Now, I had not seen this movie before. Faye, you had.
Many times.
So,
Love it.
yeah, give us your history on this movie. When you saw it for the first time, what you know about it, that kind of stuff.
Honestly, I don't remember where I heard about it, but I came across it probably on the internet about a new movie with Anthony Stewart Head in it and singing. So I was like, I'm down because I loved Anthony Stewart Head as Giles in Buffy, and the Once More with Feeling episode. It's my favorite. I'm sorry, everybody.
I don't think there's anything to be sorry
so-
about. I know a lot of people that say that.
So I was, as soon as I heard about it, I waited for the DVD because it was a limited release in theaters. So I had to wait for the DVD, and the day that it came out, I went and grabbed the DVD. I still have it, and I still cherish it. And do you remember Jesse?
Yes.
Yeah. So actually, I forced him and Naomi and everybody to watch it together as a group.
I see.
And
All right.
Naomi and I loved it. Everybody else was kind of
All right. So you have a bit of a background with it, and you like this movie. It does have a cult classic status, for sure. Came out in 2008. Monica, what is your history with Repo, the Genetic Opera? if any?
Let's see. Faye mentioned the movie, and you said we were gonna watch it for the show.
Okay.
And then I watched it for the first time.
So you hadn't heard of this one before, even?
No, I actually confused it. For some reason, I confused it with this other movie called, I think it was Freaked, with Alex Winter.
Yeah, actually, which I've covered on this show.
For some reason, I don't know why. I think it's just a picture in my mind of the two movies. Like somehow they have nothing to do with each other.
No, they don't, and they're like 15 years apart in terms of when they came out, even.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's okay. I conflated this movie with another movie I'll talk about in a minute. But Dredd, were you familiar with this movie at all? Had you seen it before? Anything?
Well, I can tell you exactly when I heard of this movie, and that was when Faye mentioned it ages ago. Some random thing she mentioned that we could watch, but we kept it for this eventually. So the first time I watched it was now for this show.
Okay. So that's 3 of us watching it for the first time, because this was also my first viewing of it. However, I had heard of it before, either in like falling down the IMDb rabbit hole and probably going through like it was probably Anthony Head was how I ended up at Repo. However, I had conflated this with another movie that came out in 2009 called Repo Men, which is also about genetic repo men, but starring Jude Law. So as I'm watching the movie this week, I was probably an hour into it, and I'm like, why hasn't Jude Law shown up yet? Why haven't I seen him? I'm pretty sure he was the star of this movie. And then I realized
Jason Statham in that as well.
No, but I think Forrest Whitaker was.
Okay.
I could see how you get those two people confused.
But like Jude Law, like I knew Jude Law was in a movie about in a future where you could get organ transplants, but then they could get repossessed. So I knew that, and for some reason my brain put those two movies together. They don't. I did research a little bit. They don't. Other than both being the same basic premise, they have nothing in common, and they just sort of. This Repo the Genetic Opera began life somewhere around 99 as an idea, and was first put to paper and on stage in like 2002, before a few years later getting like a 10-minute short film made, and then it became the full movie. Repo Men, for the most part, came about in 2008, 2009, but it was based off of a story that was originally published in like 97 is where they can trace that to, but there's no real cross-pollination. There's nothing like they read this and went in this direction. It was it's actually a very similar to, and I don't know how many people know this, Dennis the Menace comic. There were 2 comic strips that debuted on the same day named Dennis the Menace, one in the United States and one in the United Kingdom. And they had nothing to do with each other. And it was just complete coincidence that 2 cartoonists made the same named comic strip on the same day on 2 different sides of the Atlantic in like 1951. And it's sort of like what happened here. There was 2 movies or 2 stories kind of that had the same genesis, but then went in wildly different directions. So it's kind of one of those things where I just had this in my head, like, yeah, Jude Law is in Repo the Genetic Opera. Nope, not him at all. Not even close. But yeah,
this one's a little more dystopian.
Well,
a little more gothic dystopian.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to. We already know what Faye thinks of the movie. She loves it. I've seen it many times. So what I'm curious, Faye, is in terms of, now this is not a horror musical, right? Because it is an opera. Everything in this movie is sung, which I have thoughts on. I will get to in a minute, but. If you are going to kind of lump this in with other horror musicals and things like that, where would you put this? Does it have the nostalgia factor of something like a Rocky Horror for you, or anything like that?
Yes, exactly. I mean, it's the music for me. I mean, just like with Rocky Horror, it's the music, although there is more of it in here, and there is more, as you said, everything is sung. whether it's actually a heavy song or if it's just sing-songy. I forget the actual operatic term. I know there's a couple of different ones. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's the coming of age for Shiloh. That's what I latched onto. The coming of age, the songbird that's trapped in the cage and wants to get out. Um, I kind of had a lot of the same type of feelings growing up, being moved from everywhere because of being a military brat. And I never got to get out and do things on my own because anytime I tried to make any friends or do any projects or join anything extracurricular in school, we moved.
Yeah. That would be tough. All right. Dread. What did you think of it as a movie, as a first time movie experience? What do you got?
As I mentioned last year, and on GORE, musicals are not really my thing. So keeping that in mind, this movie I found very amusing and good.
Okay.
I'll take it.
I like the music a lot. Like more industrial feeling to it. It reminded me a lot of different bands and stuff. So I was like wondering I didn't look at stuff before. I just watched the movie first. I was wondering if there was a band involved. Like sometimes, like 9 Inch Nails and stuff. They like doing things. But apparently not.
No.
So good on them.
Yeah, it's mostly Terrence Zdunich and his writing partner, and then the director Darren Lynn Bousman. We'll get to them in a little bit. But Monica, what did you think of it as a movie? Did you enjoy it?
I also am not a musical person, but and at first I can say I wasn't getting into it right away, but yeah, I quickly started to really like it. Yeah, I had a really great time. He was like Dredd was saying bands, and I mentioned Nightwish. Like it's got a very interesting sound. It's not exactly them, but when the Blind Meg, when she comes out, like that's all I could think of is just that powerful voice and just the elements. Yeah, the elements of like the dystopian for the future, and just like it was like a darker, more twisted Blade Runner-y type thing, and it was I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
The look of the world, the feel. And
It
I
does-
ignored some of the singing.
It does have a very distinct look to it, which I did appreciate. I liked the production design of things. The costuming was unique and a lot of fun. I thought it was okay. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. It's certainly not something like it's something that I would, in the right situation, watch again. But I didn't love it the way that I really can latch on to something like Rocky Horror or Anna and the Apocalypse was a horror musical that we watched a while back, and I had a lot more fun with that. I think for me, what hurt this movie from being something that I could really get into was it was an overstuffed plot. There was so many plots and subplots, and it's too much. Like, one of the things that makes Rocky Horror Picture Show work so well is it's such a streamlined, simple, dumb thing. Like, there's no explanation to anything. It's just random people show up at a house in the middle of the night, and the people inside the house, a little weird. And some weird shit's going on, and they have to navigate that. They're trying to create a guy out of whatever, and, like, they just don't explain anything, and they move on. And this movie was like, no, we're gonna explain it. We're gonna explain it all. We're gonna give it in great detail. And on top of, we're going to have like this plot and then another plot and another storyline and this one, and they're sort of going to interweave, but not really. And I just felt like it was overstuffed. Like I didn't need both Nathan and his daughter and that plot, plus the guy running the corporation and his kids and them being interwoven. with like he was dating the mom before the mom left him for reasons to go be with the other guy, and then he helps to stage her death or kill her or something. It was too much and too complicated for me. Like, trim it down, make it simpler, especially in an hour and a half long opera where everything's being sung. So there's a lot of exposition that has to get out in this singing, and that's not an easy thing to do. So for me, that it's still enjoyable.
I can agree.
Yeah, it's enjoyable, but it just needed to be like streamlined. Now, I did do a little deep dive onto Terrence Zdunich and some of his and some of his other stuff with what is it, the Devil's Carnival,
Devil's Carnival,
and then the sequel to that, and what he's doing now. And it seems like he's helped to refine his writing a little bit. Is the music too? For me, a musical or a musical-based movie should have at least one song that is that hook that you remember. I honestly don't remember much of the music of this. Like, it didn't stick with me because there wasn't that one aria, that one song that sort of was like, you know, there wasn't a time warp. There wasn't a like that one piece for me. Mm-hmm. The music was very kind of oddly disjointed in some ways. And again, that feels like something
comes in a little glass vial.
That's one
That's
line.
The hook for me.
It's a single line, but even that song itself is just that repeated. It's not really like, I don't know how to explain it exactly. I did watch a breakdown of the music by somebody who's much smarter about music than I am, who kind of was able to put into words what I was feeling while I was watching it. I just felt this weird disconnect with the music, and I don't know why exactly, but it just never felt like it hit a stride that was consistent. It always felt like something was just off, and so it was hard for me to get into. And it being an opera, there's no break from that. There's no point where you can be like, okay, we got a couple minutes of dialogue and some acting, and then I can get ready for the next song. It was just a constant barrage of music. So again, I didn't dislike it, but I feel like it was trying really hard to be the Rocky Horror Picture Show and become a cult classic, like on purpose. Whereas something like, I don't know, it felt like it was trying to be that as opposed to just sort of becoming that. If that makes any sense.
I understand.
I kind of liked it was different because it definitely wasn't like a straight up musical, like you said, like not no breaks in the middle and everything was kind of sung. So like that threw me at first, but then it was like, it was so off-putting that I started to like it for some reason. Like it was this weird, I don't know, feeling. And that's like, think about it, that's even more singing than a regular musical, and I ended up like, I don't know.
Well,
I can't explain it.
And
I think nice.
I think the thing is like there is a definite love for this material and a joy that's going on in making it that comes through the screen. And I got that 100%. Like everybody on screen involved in it are giving good performances, and they're going all out, and they're really you can tell they're having a good time. It just felt, I don't want to say try hard because I feel like that's just really negative, and that's not, but it felt like it was trying to be a thing instead of just being that thing. And then, because the movie did not review well, but it also didn't do well commercially because it was only put out in like 7 theaters on its initial run. So it made like $100,000 maybe on an $8.5 million budget. But I feel like if it had either gotten a wide release or just gone straight to DVD, like it would have felt more authentic. I don't know how to articulate exactly what I felt while I was watching it, but I didn't latch onto it like I do a lot of other stuff. Even musicals, which aren't normally something that I necessarily go for either, but I appreciate really good ones. I mean, when I saw Moulin Rouge for the first time, I was blown away by how much I enjoyed watching Moulin Rouge, but there was something to the structure of that felt better than this did. this feels like a first
Oh.
movie, even though the director had already done 3 Saw movies by this point, on top of other stuff that he had done. So
It isn't as smooth. It is very jagged, but that's part of the feel that I liked. I mean, especially with the aesthetic that they were going for, the gothic,
Mhm.
dystopian. I mean, it's fully my aesthetic.
sure.
So I really loved it, and their outfits, the costuming, gorgeous. Especially Shiloh's. All of her outfits, I would love to have. Um,
Especially
I mean-
that rockin' one that's like the sides are cut out. Like, oh my god, I
Right.
love that.
Yeah, that was pure 80s. That was pure 80s Joan Jett.
Mhm.
Speaking of Joan Jett, she has a cameo in it, and that I love that. When I saw Joan, I'm like, is that? Oh, okay, cool.
Uh-huh.
Like that was a cool little cameo.
That's why I
yeah.
wanted to say that when you talked about bands. It's like,
Mhm.
there was somebody there.
And look, the cast of this is pretty incredible, really. I mean, Paul Sorvino is great, and Paul Sorvino has a hell of a singing voice, by the way. When he's not just doing like the
Oh my god, yeah.
the kind of
I was
speak
worried in
singing.
the beginning because the first couple of times you see him, he's just talking in a singing way. He's not
So,
singing. He's like,
yeah,
you know,
That's
I'm like, oh, he can't sing, and
He
then he's
surprises
only
you.
just like,
so
okay.
that video
one
that I
note that he hit.
oh yeah.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
The video
there.
that the video that I mentioned, it's long. It's a YouTube video, but it's like an hour and 15 minutes long. And there's a ton of breakdown to it. But she mentions the different opera styles and what goes on there. And that is an operatic style where it's essentially spoken word, but there is a rhythm to it that makes it essentially, it makes it singing. But it is very like speaky. And I was like you, I was kind of worried that would be all that he would do in it. But yeah, when especially in the car, he belted out a note, and I was like, oh, okay, Paulie can sing. I already knew Anthony Head could sing, so
Yeah.
that didn't surprise me. And he is easily the best thing in this movie, is Anthony Head. In fact, I think he's underused in the movie. The storyline should have cut out all the crap with the kids and inheriting the company. Just get rid of all that. We don't need that, because that's the overstuffed thing. Like, I'm more interested in what's going on with the character of Nathan, his daughter, and because that becomes a huge reveal at the end. I want to talk about in a minute, but like it kind of hurts too in a way. But just more of that, and like him being the Repo Man and being forced into being the Repo Man was a big thing, and he was great. Alexa Vega as Shiloh was really good. She looked the part, even though she was probably about 20, 21 when they made this, I think.
20.
Somewhere around there.
Or it came out.
Yeah.
I
She
looked it
turned
up.
20 when it came
20.
out.
Okay.
So it's probably 19 when filming.
And the dynamic, the chemistry between her and Anthony Head in terms of like father-daughter stuff was really good, I thought. Again, because we don't have a ton of time, I feel like, devoted to it, or enough time, the ending to it where she gets angry with him could have been written better, but it wasn't terrible. Sarah Brightman was Blind Mag, and she's interesting. She's not an actor. This was her first film. She's a singer and got an amazing voice. I thought she was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed her.
I was surprised she doesn't have more stuff after this.
Yeah, I was too when I went and looked. I couldn't believe that this was like basically what she's done. Obviously, a lot of stage probably, but I will admit that I was. It took me a while to figure out that it was Paris Hilton as the
Well,
character
she was
of Amber
playing herself.
but she wasn't bad in this movie. Now, you're right, she is kind of playing herself, but she's playing that role really well.
She had
Can
a lot
I
of faith
tell
in
you
the
something?
project.
Yeah.
What, Dread?
She was in the movie House of Wax,
Mm-hmm.
the remake.
Oh,
I love that movie.
Mm-hmm.
So
I haven't seen that, but I've seen like her death in that.
Yeah, she's good in it. I was surprised back then, and still am.
Somehow she won a Razzie for this performance, and I don't understand that, because even if you don't like the performance, she's not in the movie long enough to win any kind of an award, good or bad. But I certainly wouldn't call her performance bad. She's fine.
No, it was.
She's
Yeah.
playing
lose
the
her
character.
face.
She's playing the character. That was one of the more interesting things in the movie, was that ending where her face is falling off.
Yeah.
Because why was
Kind
her
of Freddie
face?
Hilton.
Well, why was her facial like reconstruction surgery so different from her brother's? Because her brother looked like he was the inspiration for that run of DC Comics where the Joker cut his own face off and then stapled it back on. But she looked just normal. It's weirdly inconsistent there.
I'm gonna guess that she had that trouble and they were gonna fix it, but then they didn't have time to fix it before the opera.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
well,
she
yeah.
had to do like a
Same.
quick fix thingy, and that
It
turned
just
bad.
didn't seal properly.
Well,
Yeah,
she
I-
got one last surgery just before the
Mhm.
show. I mean, that's why she showed up to Grave Robber to get the Zytrate.
Yeah, that's true.
And even though he says don't get cut, and she went and got cut.
Yeah. But yeah, I had no problems with her. I just, like I said, I didn't realize it was her for the first half the movie. Like it just didn't dawn on me.
I think for a guy named Grave Robber, he needs to learn to say grave quieter. Because
I'm
like,
being very sneaky.
like every time he said it, he was just screaming it, and I'm like, shh, dude.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be like sneaking.
Yeah. Speaking of the brother that was wearing someone else's face on top of his own, Pavi is the character, and he's played by Kevin Ogilvy, also known as Ogre. And like of the three siblings, he was the most annoying because for some reason he had the outrageous Italian American accent that made no sense to me when none of his siblings or parents have that. I'm like, why? But
Maybe had a voice transplant. Of an
that could
Italian.
be. Yeah, that's a good point. He may have had his
I-
vocal cords replaced with an Italian's vocal cords.
Yeah.
Why not?
The whole world is all cosmetic surgery that you can get financed.
Yep. And
I
then
am paying for my shit outright. Just saying.
if you can. And then the other sibling, Luigi, is played by Bill Moseley. I love Bill Moseley because he's just nuts. Like that dude
And
is.
his
Oh, yeah.
name is Luigi.
And he's
Why is he not Italian?
well, he's got the Italian temper, right? He's just quick to
Yeah,
stab anybody
true.
who doesn't that pisses him off.
Oh my god, he was so loud.
I mean,
Bill-
it's only Luigi in the movie. In the play, it was Lucy or Lucci or something like that.
Lucci.
Lucci, yeah.
Lucci.
Yeah, they
Lucci
changed
and
it.
Heather.
They changed it for the movie. But Bill Moseley is great. He's a great Twitter follow, by the way. I enjoy following Bill Moseley on Twitter. Terrence Zdunich, that we mentioned, is the grave robber. He's also the one that wrote most of the music for this. And he's both a narrator and a character in the movie. Which is another thing that can get a little bit confusing when he's singing as a narrator and then all of a sudden he's in the scene. And like you said, the yelling grave, really, really loud. Like, first of all, he was singing before that. How did the guys in the graveyard not hear him or see him? He wasn't exactly being subtle. But it took for him to yell grave before they did anything about it. And then he grabs the body out of that to use like a battering ram.
It worked.
It did.
To
It was-
bust through another grave marker
Mhm.
into a wall.
into a tomb, like a tomb full of bodies.
And bodies still coming down.
Yeah, like an open grave. That was yet it was sealed on the other side. It was strange. A lot of strange things going on here. And again, there's a lot of exposition and world building that goes on that either is a lot to take in at once. Like, I love the opening animation and kind of that comic book style. That was all done by Terrence, apparently. And I thought that was cool. It's a fun way to have a text opening and get a lot of your stuff across instead of just doing a scroll of text. But it's a lot. It was a lot to take in before the first lines are spoken or sung in the movie. And I'm like, okay, I guess this is what I know now, sort of. I read most of that and we're fine. But then there's other stuff like, why does Shiloh have a thing for bugs? She goes into her mother's tomb and is reading, but then sees a bug, so grabs her book on insects and tries to chase the thing around. We're never really, I don't understand that. And like that was enough for her to go out, even though she knows that it's dangerous. Because the way she's talking about leaving the tomb.
It's just right there. It could be really quick.
Oh,
I could
sure.
be right back in. And
Which I was like, all right, so she's getting caught. I get it. And like, obviously plot contrivance, like her dad being the repo man, but why is the repo man in the graveyard at all? What was he doing there? Because he just happens to show up. It was stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, no, I can't think about it that way. I just got to sit back and enjoy, which helped. It's still, there's still stuff that just didn't make any sense to me because there's just so much packed into here that I'm like, wow, I need a break for a second and like to let the scenes breathe a little bit.
there is a lot, and there's a lot of stuff happening in the background. There's a lot of stuff to pay attention to with the newspapers, especially the ones that Grave Robber always seems to have. And there's a lot to it. And it is shoving everything down your throat. So the first showing is always daunting. I'd say give it a few more shows. Just go through. That way you can soak all the other stuff in and get the whole story.
Yeah, I mean,
that's up to you.
I can see it improving on another watch. I also wonder, like, because part of it is that the music just didn't do anything for me on a base level, even in an operatic sense. And usually I can kind of adjust my brain to be like, okay, no, this is opera music. This isn't the same thing as like having songs. But there was something off about the music too. Like the lyrics, the way the lyrics would play into the song. Or
I think the main thing there is while I said I like the music, what I did here is that most of the songs, not all, because once Blind Mag sings, that's a different song. But most of the other songs are very similar in writing and in tones. Like, it's a little bit different, but it's the same.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say it. If you listen to a band, it's the same
rhythm.
And it's almost like people have their own song. Like she'll be singing in her own way against the conversation of somebody else.
Yes.
And I kind of like that. It's like a personality shining through with the conversation. It was very different.
That's why it takes a couple of watchings so that you can pay attention to each one separately, which is annoying. I will agree.
And here's my problem with that is I have experienced songs like that in musicals before, in stage plays where you've got two people and they're doing roughly the same rhythm, but they're in different melodies and they're singing two parts against each other. That's fine. But in those cases, we've had some form of dialogue or exposition before and or after that song, so that what's going on during the song has some better context and makes more sense. This is all of that background and all of that built into the singing, and it's impossible to follow. And that can be difficult to really deal with when you've got two, or in one case, I think there were three people singing.
Yep.
And it's like it's already tough enough when you watch a movie where there's that kind of cacophony of sound of like a bunch of people talking all at once and you're trying to pick out the dialogue. This was a thing that happened a lot. I've noticed recently in movies that were produced in like the 1970s. I remember in Jaws, I noticed this. In Close Encounters, I noticed this. In there's another one from that era. I want to say maybe French Connection, where there'll be scenes and there'll be a ton of people talking and you have to try and pick out the one or two voices that are actually important to what's being spoken. It reminded me of that, but in a musical form, where there's 2 or 3 people singing at the same time, and I'm like, well, I can't follow both of these melodies at once. Like my brain just doesn't do that. So if I have dialogue beforehand and then that goes on, it's easier for me to pick that up and parse that. When I don't have that, it's tougher. It's interesting, but it's tougher to follow, and so it can kind of take me out of a moment.
Yeah.
Which is a very good nitpick of this movie.
Yeah.
I mean,
It
it's
would
a fair
help
nitpick.
if they added more dialogue that isn't sung, because I felt similar, I think, to Travis in the sense that after a while, my brain was like, it keeps going. And you're in that song thing and you keep hearing and listening, and it's like, I need a break.
And I
You
felt
don't
the
get a break.
opposite way. I felt the opposite to you, because I felt like the reason I don't like musicals is because it's like, we're talking, we're like a normal movie, and now we're singing a song. Like, shut up. There was just something about this that lulled me into, like, they just sang the whole time, and now I'm numb to it. Like, now I don't even realize you're singing half of the movie.
Well,
So,
numb is
like,
a good word
for
for
my
it. Yes.
brain, it was nice.
I'm with Dredd. Numb is a good word for that, because you do sort of, and my problem is that at that point, then it's hard for me to then absorb the story that's being told to me. So I might miss something. And I don't mind a movie that you watch more than once to fully appreciate it, but I feel like you should be able to watch a movie one time. Like, I am a fan of Terry Gilliam films, and his films are notoriously dense and difficult to understand. Brazil being one. I joked the first time I saw his movie, The Brothers Grimm, with Matt Damon and what's his name? Anyway, the first time I saw that, I was like, wow, a Terry Gilliam movie I completely understood the first time I watched it. But even with his denser stuff, like, I could still take most of it away from a first watch. This, I just felt like I would have to trudge through a second watching. I don't know. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, it probably wouldn't be as bad as I'm thinking, but it's just one of those where it's like, I want it to be more accessible on that first go round, if that makes sense.
No, that's fair. That is the
Heath Ledger, thank you.
hardest part.
Well, like, isn't that the whole thing with liking a movie and not liking a movie? If you don't like it, you're not going to want to trudge through it again to watch it the second time. So that's it's a hard thing. Like, there are some movies that I will never want to force myself through again because it just wasn't, fun. But
and
other movies I've seen a million times for no reason whatsoever. Like,
and I think that's part of this, is there is enough of this movie on its own merits that I enjoy that I would watch it again. I wouldn't necessarily be like, well, I'm just, it's going to become a normal rotation for me to just sit down and watch. But if I got a group of friends that want to watch something, this is a movie that I would not say no to. So it's got that going for it. Mostly, again, on the strength of Anthony Head and Paul
you hear
Sorvino.
that, Faye?
I'm
Movie
not going
night.
to force him.
But
Movie night.
Not so soon. I won't punish him.
Once a year.
But I feel like my first watching of it, I didn't enjoy it as much as I kind of had hoped that I would, maybe. Like, I didn't really have any expectations going into this. All I knew was that it was a horror opera. And I like rock operas. I think they're a cool idea. But I felt like when I got done with it that I was going to enjoy it more than I did. So it's one of those where I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. And I probably should have stopped there. But instead I did what I do, which is to dive in a little more and research things a little bit more. And I found that I don't know that I'm a very big fan of Terrence Zdunich moving forward. It seems a little problematic with some of the interviews that I listened to and watched at, like.
Yeah, him as a person, yeah. I especially because of him talking about the deleted scene from this movie constantly.
Yeah, apparently
it's deleted, but there is a clip of it if you pay attention.
There's a deleted song scene in this movie with him and Paris Hilton, where her character is coming to him for more of the drug, and the song goes back and forth, and it gets very sexual in nature. And he will apparently talk about that at any Q&A at length, whether people bring it up or not.
Yeah.
And there's some other things that are kind of hearsay and a little. There's a Tumblr blog that was linked to that I read a little bit of, and I was like, nope, we're done reading that. I don't need any more. Look, I don't know him. I know him from this, and that's it. So he just seems like he's maybe a little bit of that edgy, I want to be edgy for the sake of being edgy type of person, which I honestly get exhausted by. And if that's the case, it's the case. But he also works with people and gets people on his movies that, like Bill Moseley, that I do like, and who, by all accounts I've heard, Bill Moseley is great. There was also a clip I saw of the director, who Darren Lynn Bousman, who had directed Saw 2, Saw 3, and Saw 4 before doing this movie, and went on to direct Devil's Carnival and the sequel and Spiral, which came out last year. Did any of you see Spiral?
Yeah.
Was it any good?
That's the Saw one, right?
Yeah, this is a Saw one.
Uh,
I heard it wasn't
Wait.
great.
It's
Wait, did I watch
decent as a
Jigsaw or did I watch
movie.
Spiral? Now I can't remember.
You would know if you watched Spiral because they changed the voice of the tapes, which is
Didn't know.
annoying as
Oh, that
No, I
Is
think
that,
the
like,
last one I watched was
iconic to
Jigsaw,
that
and was
series.
good.
And if you change that, that's like, no. As a movie, it was fine, but as a Saw movie, nah.
But I saw him. It was him at an event of some kind, talking about on stage and in front of the crowd, talking about the crush he had on one of the actresses that was in it, and going on and on about how he kept emailing her over and over, and even after she was like, "Dude, leave me alone," and he just kept at it to get her into a movie or something. And it was just one of those things where I was like, I feels kind of icky. Like.
Mhm. Completely.
And I get the same feel from some of the interviews with Zdunich, where it seems like he's very cognizant of the fact that a lot of his fan base are younger goth girls, and he's very keen on that to use it to his advantage. Not something super great. I did, however. One of the Q&A panels was for the third or the second Devil's Carnival movie, and Barry Bostwick was in that as a character.
Huh.
And it was a Q&A with Terrence Zdunich, I can't remember the woman's name, and Barry Bostwick. And Bostwick had one of the best, like, Terrence says something about, like, I don't know if they're, something that maybe I could try doing for the first time or whatever. And Bostwick goes, I don't know, write a hit song. But he also, he then got very self-deprecating. He's like, because apparently Barry Bostwick had auditioned for the role of Repo Man in this movie and got turned down. And so he's like, I'm just kind of a bitter old man now, so whatever. But I was like, oh, Barry Bostwick is great. And honestly, I could have seen him playing this character after reading that, and I think it would have been pretty good. It's hard to separate Anthony Head from it now, just because, like, seeing Giles as the Repo Man and how great he is at singing is awesome. But man, Barry Bostwick is great, and so I don't know. But yeah, it's just one of those things that, sometimes I hate the fact that I dive deeper into some of these movies. It's like, oh, I wanted to like this more, and now I'm not sure I should. And it's
separation of the artist and the art.
Yep.
It is.
That's a good thing to be able to do.
It is. And sometimes it's easier than others. And sometimes it's kind of one of those where it's like, okay, I can separate art and artist, but also, like, the art gave the artist the platform to do the shitty things that he's doing. And that's tough to reconcile sometimes.
Yeah, but you also have to look at what the shitty thing is. Like, did they actually do a thing, or are they just being creepy? Because them being creepy isn't Like that's not enough to convict them of a crime.
No,
You know what I
no,
mean?
not at all.
Like,
Not at all.
it's gross to be creepy, but like it's not like some of the people who have been like thrown in jail or actually convicted of really, really heinous things. Those people I can't like. There are some people I just can't watch in a movie anymore.
Oh, for sure. And
But
I certainly
it's
have
just-
that same, I mean, that same thing. I've told the story before about the band Lost Prophets. Put out a couple songs and a couple albums in the late 90s, early 2000s I really liked. Then I found out that their lead singer, Ian Watkins, not only was he charged with, but convicted and sent to prison for sexual assault of a 1-year-old, 2-year-old. And I was like,
Jesus
well,
Christ.
I will never listen to a Lost Prophet song again because I can't. I just can't do it. Like that's, but
Yeah.
the question is where is the line for you in terms of like separate art from artist, but also like how far can you go, right? Does it have to be somebody that's convicted and sent to jail for something, or can it be like, and it's obviously going to be different for everybody. It's going to be a personal thing. It was just one of those where, as I read more about this guy, who seems very affable and very, very friendly in a lot of his interviews too, but then there was a lot of comments made where I was just like, that's kind of icky, and maybe not great, but who knows? It's tough. It's always hard. But on its own, this movie wasn't bad. I just feel like it's that thing, and this feeling I had before I read any of the stuff about the creator was like, it's that feeling that I had that it was just trying to be the cult classic instead of just being a cult classic. And it's hard. That's such a hard distinction to make, right? Because like, that's going to feel different for everybody too, I think. What becomes, because you can't really set out to make a cult classic. That's part of why stuff like Sharknado always bugs me, because
Hey, careful now.
it's one thing to make a cheeseball movie, but in an earnest capacity. I've talked about that on Gore a few times with some of the cheesy ones that we've watched, where it's like, yeah, they're trying to, like, they genuinely are having fun, but they're also wanting to make something, and it's just not the execution isn't quite there. But when you, from conception, try to make something that is going to be a cult classic, that doesn't always work for me. I say that, and then I was like, I watched Velocipaster, and I got exactly what they were going for, which is, we've got $50 and a camera, we're going to make a movie. So it's tough. It's I don't know. I don't know how to put it. I don't know how to reconcile that in my brain, but
So it's not a Kung Fury?
A what?
I mean, Kung Fury is
Fury.
is a good example of that, where they set out to make that thing. That's a short. We'll have to show you that, Monica, if you haven't seen it. Because,
Okay, I was gonna say, I'm like, what am I missing?
yeah.
Awesomeness is what you're missing.
Is
I've
it?
seen the gifs of some of the things.
Have I?
I'm sure
I've used them.
if you've seen Hacker Man, you've seen an image from that movie at least. But no, it's just one of those where I don't think this isn't a bad movie, but I wouldn't call it great either. It exists.
No, that's fair.
I think that it has a good place to be. I understand the fan base behind it. The funny thing, by the way, that I mentioned about the Repo genetic opera versus Repo men, and how there was no real cross anywhere there, and there wasn't like. Apparently, it was the fan bases that got up in arms. Like the fans of Repo, the genetic opera, were complaining of plagiarism, that Repo men stole the idea, and Zdunich and the people behind both movies were like, nah, we're fine. That movie exists, and it's fine to exist. And like they sat down and had dinner together and like hashed it all out. And I thought that was kind of cool, because you don't have a director or a writer being like, you stole my idea. No, we really didn't. I mean, we stole the idea in much of like repossessing organs, and that's where the similarities end. So, who hasn't seen Velocipaster at this point? Says Tandagasa. Well, a
Everyone
lot of
should.
I
people.
haven't.
Oh, well, we'll
No.
do an episode on that.
No. No. I had to watch that. No.
It's
I'll
it's
save
not
you.
good. I will say that it is.
I will go as far as to say it was bad. Like, it is bad. It's not even a movie. Ah.
I mean, if
That's
it's worse
right.
than Tammy and the Gator, or whatever that movie was.
Tammy and the T-Rex?
It's as
I'll
Yeah.
watch that before I'd watch Velocipaster again.
listen. Velocipaster is as much a movie as Sky Sharks is. Okay.
No. Come on.
Excuse me.
Sky Sharks
we're
had
gonna have a
some
talk.
budget. There was
Can you
money
put a
in
screen
Sky
like
Sharks.
be right back technical difficulties right now, and then you come back with a black eye and stuff. And
It's like a little dread holding scissors and a cord. Like,
Look, somebody had to get the dig in about Sky Sharks. It was going to be me this time around. All right.
and
No,
he hasn't even seen the movie.
Yeah.
And I'm all for like trying something new, which is what this was. And I kind of like when stage plays get adapted and turned into stuff. It's just for me in terms of musicals or operas, I'm going to lump those together. This doesn't sit real high for me, but it's just something with the music just didn't do it. I wish I could put my finger on exactly what it was about that. Like even a line, like there's the line in his song in the graveyard where he says, I rob, was it rob and steal or steal and rob? And it was the, like the way it was phrased. I'm like, okay, what are we doing? Are we robbing stuff or are we stealing it? I was very confused. And then
Technically both.
And then again, when I watched that breakdown, that was part of it that she focused on in the video, was like comparing that to another song and how it can work one way and maybe not work in another way. So maybe that's why it keeps rolling around in my head. I don't know.
Well, I'm gonna say it's like I said, that the music is too like this on a line, and there's not enough high points. How do you say that, you know?
Variation.
If you're thinking about music and songs you like, you'll know that you have the chorus that changes up things,
Yeah.
and that pulls you in, and that's the thing you'll like and you'll remember. And in this, there was not a lot of songs that had that. It was very stale in a way, and that sounds worse than I mean it.
Stale.
Once again, I like the music.
No, but
Even
you know,
Shiloh's song to her dad, I'm 17, you can't control me
That was a
anymore.
little, as I said, that was one of the songs that changed things up. And similar with the opera itself, Blind Mag's song,
Mhm.
which was completely different. And obviously, she can sing even better than the other ones. I mean, come on.
I think that's
But the rest of the songs, like as I said, the Grave Robber song, his things, all his songs was the same song
Well,
basically.
Yeah,
Voice,
his was, which is how it was set up.
yes.
I mean,
But
his are
today,
more exposition, and that's how they set that up. I mean, but yes,
To the human ear.
wanting more from it, I agree.
yep.
Like-
And I think that's what Travis means when he's like, it didn't grab me. I think that's the main reason.
I think you're right there, because it is very very monotonous in the musical style, with the exception of the I'm 17 and the opera. But I think about musicals that I really enjoy, like Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny is a good example for me, where the songs in that vary so much from song to song. You know, you've got the Sasquatch song that's very much like a 70s
Urban Sasquatch? What?
it's like a psychedelic song. You've got, you know, kind of the more rockin' songs. It's just different. There's a variation to what they're doing. There's stuff that's acoustic and more ballady, and songs that are like telling a story versus a song that's just kind of a pop song almost. Again, Anne and the Apocalypse had that, where they had the different songs throughout the movie that had different feels to them depending on the scene. Or who was singing them, and that's what I look for when I'm watching a musical, especially because there's just that variation, and that keeps your interest. And this did get stale for me. I think that's a good way to put it, Dredd. Is I got bored with the music, and when that's an
I know my
opera,
music.
But when it's an opera, you shouldn't get bored with the music because that's what it is. You're going to have that throughout the whole thing. Like, everybody's singing everything all the time. And like, I know Bill Moseley can sing because he's put out albums. He's put out music albums, but he didn't do himself any favors in this movie, to me. And I love Bill Moseley.
No. Yeah, his character didn't really get much singing. Just the basically
yelling.
the fight, the verbal fight between the three of them.
There was always three of them, basically.
Yeah. I also, like I say, I just wanted more of the Nathan character because, okay, so that plot to me is the most interesting of the movie, in that you've got this guy who loses his wife, and so he wants to protect his daughter at all costs, right? Because he can't stand to lose her. And because of what happened and the convoluted nature of how that all went down, he ends up getting roped into being the repo man for this big Genco. Okay, I get that. That all makes sense. Then you have this reveal at the end. Spoiler alert for those who haven't seen it. That Shiloh's blood disease, that is the reason that she can't ever go out and he doesn't want her leaving the house and all of that, is something he did to her. He is giving her medicine, which is poisoning her and keeping her bedridden and keeping her sick. That 100% hurt my view of him as a character. And now on rewatches, I'm going to have that in my head, and I don't like that for that character because it undermines everything we've seen up until that point. He then goes from being a sympathetic character who's doing some bad stuff because he's forced into it as the repo man, and there's a little bit of like, I do enjoy doing this type of work, but I don't because I'm forced into it type of thing, and I'm just trying to take care of my daughter. But then this gets revealed and it's like, oh, but you're also just a bad dude that's treating his daughter like crap. Cool. All right. Well, that hurts that characterization quite a bit because he becomes a villain at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So then I have no sympathy when he gets shot and dies. Like I didn't feel anything at that point.
It's hard to call him a villain. I think it's just more like a very complex character. Like, not everybody is good or bad. He is good, and he's doing it for a reason that he thinks is right, but it's not the right thing.
Right, but like,
so like I can still enjoy the character.
Most villains think they're in the right, but he's literally poisoning his daughter in order to keep her safe.
Yeah, I watched the movie too. I'm just saying, like I don't see it the same way.
Well, we'll disagree then, because he turned into a villain.
That's what I'm saying.
He
I'm just
turned
giving my
into a
opinion.
villain for me at that point, because that's just like, you don't need that. That's pointless. That's useless to do to that character.
Well, like I said, like human beings aren't like that. They're not just good or bad. They have, complex sides and things like that.
Sure.
That's what I saw it as. Like, he was forced into this life like that, it killed his love, and he had to protect his daughter at all costs. The world is like this crazy, disgusting place, and he did things that he's not proud of. So
Plus, he was the villain from the beginning. I mean, giving a crappy wig like that to his daughter.
Yeah.
That was something I noticed actually in her first scene when she's creeping into her mom's tomb. I'm like, that's a wig for sure.
Yeah,
it has to.
Yeah, because she readjusts it when she takes off the mask.
Yeah, what was the point of the gas mask if she's not going to keep wearing it outside? I'm going to wear it from point A to point B, and then I'm just not going to.
It's a fashion statement. I don't know.
She was wearing it when she was outside of a building, walking between a hidden tunnel. When she closed the door to the outside is when she took it off again. But yes, that building's not sealed.
It's not, and then she goes outside without it on anyway. So
yeah, yeah. I mean, it wasn't doing anything to begin with for her, so because there was really nothing actually wrong with her other than the poisoning.
Yeah, it was just a matter of time before she had to take her medicine again.
Yeah, her medicine.
Her medicine, which apparently were mints that they had her take. But also like the nature of, nameless blood disease that's affecting her, but it makes her pass out if she doesn't take her medicine. Like, That was a weird one for me. I just didn't understand because they never give you any kind of an explanation for it or anything really. It's just
Other than
you
that
have a
her
blood
mother
disease.
had it and it passed through genetics.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Probably smelt her own bad breath. And she's like, oh.
Yep.
But for all my complaining about stuff, there are things about this that were cool. I loved the I'm 17 song, just that punk rock attitude and Joan Jett, and I think part of it is going along what Dredd said, where it changed up the style. It was something different. The visuals on it are like the costuming and just the style. They had a distinct style throughout the whole thing. I love the costume of the Repo Man. I thought that was really cool looking. Although the poster showing him covered in it being red, but it doesn't look like it's covered in blood. It's just red with the way that the coloring, like the way the lighting is. It threw me that it was black throughout the movie.
True.
But that's a minor thing. Like the look of it is really cool and how it lights up inside the mask, so you can see
The eyes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that the opera at the end was really cool.
Yeah, just think
Blind
about
Max
being in
stole the
that
show.
audience.
That audience was very calm about everything that was going on stage.
It's
was a
'cause they thought it was
show.
part of the play. Yeah, they thought it was part of the show. Especially when he comes out and says, "Don't worry, folks, that's just part of the show. Just hang on and we'll get to the next act."
Yeah.
That scene was cool, though. I saw it coming when they showed her fingers having the long
Yeah.
nail
yeah.
thingies. But the way she
Beautiful
said
scene.
it and looked at him, and it's just like, wee.
Oh, it was.
Oh, yeah.
And then
I
he
like
takes
that.
his cane sword and slices her down.
Yeah. And then
That
I
was
was
messed up.
sad because she was my favorite.
Yeah, I mean that was a
It was
really
great.
well done scene. The song that I wanted to like the most was where they're getting Nathan to, they're telling him he has to take the job, and they take him into the room with random dude and tied to a chair that he's got to do something to.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to like that song a lot more, but that one got to a point of like, all right, there's just too much. We have like 4 different melodies trying to compete at the same time, and I now have
And
no
it's
clue.
gone on for far too long.
That was the thing. Like,
Yep.
it's one thing if you have that for a short period of time, but it just kept going. I'm like, I shouldn't look at the time while I'm watching a movie, and I was at that point. I'm like, all right, this song can be done. And it started off so great because again, it's Anthony Head, and he gets to take center stage in that song, and he's just good. But yeah,
Well, that's when the point where maybe having an actual band or real, in quotes, composer helping out would probably make that way better. That's one thing, making music, writing music, but knowing what to do and what not to do.
yeah, and I think it's the what
less
not
is
to
more
do part.
sometimes.
It gets better with Devil's Carnival.
Well, yeah, he learned probably from it, and
No,
that's
he actually
good.
had actual help from a composer.
Or, there you go.
Yeah, and that certainly can help. You get somebody who really knows how to write music for the medium that you're doing it in. I think makes a difference. But all in all, like, I certainly don't mourn the time that I spent watching the movie. Like I say, I liked it. I just didn't love it like I thought that I might. It felt like this was going to be kind of right up my alley, and instead, what I ended up with was like, but I could just use that same hour and a half and watch Rocky Horror Picture Show again. And I enjoy that much more. So that's me.
Fair.
But I'm glad that on the whole, on the balance, we all liked it this week. We don't
Yes.
have
That's
And
no
I
a
introduced you
first.
to the movie that you all enjoyed.
I was really surprised. Not that you introduced a movie, but that I actually like the musical.
But a good movie.
I don't.
Oh, poor Rocky.
I mean, yeah, okay, so I like that one too, but it's very few and far between.
Yeah, and I don't have any audio clips this week because it's all music, and there's not a lot to like clip out that would work out of context to listen to. So there just was nothing to clip. So no audio clips for this week. However, I think next week's movie is going to have a few audio clips because
Oh yeah.
next week we are diving into the world of John Carpenter and Prince of Darkness. Now, real quick, going around the room, Monica, I think you are the only one who hasn't seen this before, right?
Yes.
Okay, because
I saved it just for this show.
the rest of us have seen it. I can't wait to talk about this one because I love John Carpenter stuff, and I feel like this is a underappreciated movie of his.
Yeah, it other ones take a brighter shine than this one, which is kind of sad.
And it fits
Yeah.
into his Apocalypse trilogy, his thematic trilogy, which we will definitely talk about next week for sure. So that's what's coming up next week, and that'll round out our 4 episodes of Gore Takeover for Spooky Month.
Aww.
And this has been so much fun for the last 3 weeks, and I'm looking forward to next week as well. Now, Monica, the 4 of us do a show together called Gore. Let people know where that can be found, and what's it about, first of all? What do we talk about?
Well, Gore is a horror podcast that we specifically talk about horror movies, but also horror books and games and shows that we watch, but focus on one specific horror movie. And you can find that at anchor.fm/Gore Podcast. Oh, the episode we just released, I'm sorry. The episode we just released is on The Stuff,
Yes.
which was fun.
Which is
Can't get enough.
Yeah, it's a horror movie in the loose concept of horror movies, but it is, and that was one that I had a lot more fun with than I thought I would. So that was a good conversation. Definitely check that out.
It's the Blob, but edible.
It's the incredible edible blob.
Well, I feel you can eat the
Damn, that
blob
could've
as
been a good
well.
title.
But would you?
You have to be fast before it eats you.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, didn't the Blob kind of eat and dissolve you as soon as it touched you?
Well, your stomach can handle a lot of things.
Well,
But what about your throat?
Yeah, it's got to get to the
Your
stomach
lips, your
first.
tongue.
If you enjoy this show and you want to hear it recorded live, watch the live stream, you can do that on Sunday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Time at twitch.tv/TV's Travis. And then it comes out as a podcast anywhere you get your podcasts on Wednesdays, or at tvstravis.com. You can go to the subscribe page and get it on any platform that you want. There is also a Patreon for this show now. You can do for as little as $1 an episode. You can support the show. That's patreon.com/WYHS. Because I just did not want to spell out Wait You Haven't Seen. That was too much. So, until next week, Monica, Dredd, Faye, thanks for being here.
Anytime.
Thanks for inviting me.
it came with the frame.
Yeah, that would be weird to have the Dreadlord there and not me. Yeah.
It would be a little weird, wouldn't it? So until next week and Prince of Darkness, remember to enjoy your movies. This has been Wait You Haven't Seen. Be excellent to each other.
I don't know about you, Bob, but I haven't been this excited since my first elective surgery.
That was like the one clip of audio that I could get. My first elective surgery. All right, we're going to stop that recording. There we go. Thanks, guys. That was fun.
To the person in chat, I do not bake. I don't even know if you're there anymore, but no, I don't bake at all.
Was that?
Thank you for thinking I would bake.
I figured that was somebody you knew.
No,
Yes, sweet blonde lady.
apparently. It looks like a name I could have had.
No idea who that was.
Literally, like, my favorite color, my favorite animal, and 69. Giggity.
Yeah.
Oh, must be why you like me.
I've never even had carrot cake. I don't even know what it tastes like.
Good.
Like carrots.
I like carrot
Like
cake.
carrots, really.
That was too easy.
Oh. blob tastes like grape jelly.
I don't want
I
to go.
thought
to
it
work
tasted
tomorrow.
like shaving cream. Oh wait,
No,
that's
that
the
was the
stuff.
stuff.
Everybody's got to eat shaving cream every once in a
Every
while.
once in a while.
Well,
A while.
whipped cream.
Everybody has
this-
to eat shaving cream once in a while.
Wow.
Yeah. Wait.
Yummy. Mm.
I talked about him 2 weeks in a row.
I know.
That's funny as hell.
Can we do it 3 weeks in a row?
I mean 3 episodes, I should say, not 3 weeks, but you get my point.
Close enough.
Right.
But yeah, I'll bring him up whenever. I actually will be bringing him up on the next episode.
All right.
It works out. Also, I will drop a link to the YouTube video that I watched on this movie and his other
I
stuff.
watched it already.
The
I've seen it.
Laura Crone or Crone? I can't remember her last name, but it was really good. It was one of those where I just was looking up stuff for Repo the Genetic Opera. That one came up. I'm like, holy hell, it's an hour and 13 minutes. Well, I got some time, and Bella wants to sit on the couch, so I started watching it. And by the end of it, I'm like, all right, I'm subscribing because I like this went places I wasn't prepared for, and it's a really, really good like analysis of stuff. And it was just a great video essay. And I'm like, all right, I'm subscribing to this. I'm gonna just block time to watch them because they're friggin' long. But
Yeah, I watched that, and then I ended up on somebody else's YouTube that was him watching movies for the first time, and then talking about them. And Blazing Saddles was one of them, and he was losing his mind because he is an African American, and the N word is used quite a bit in that movie.
yes, it is.
He was losing it. He ended up loving it, but he's just like, this movie could not be made anymore.
You couldn't get away with that now, but the reason it works is they're never punching down with the jokes. Mel Brooks was good about not punching down on his jokes like that. He just that's the type of edginess that can work because you kind of go to the edge where you're picking apart the people that are in the top of the current power structure.
Well, yeah. I mean, he even, made fun of Jewish people, which he is. So.
Yeah.
That's okay though. We're allowed to make fun of our own. That's how it works.
Some Mel Brooks would work in 2022. Not all of it. Blazing Saddles would be a tough sell. It'd be a tough sell.
And it was a hard sell
Definitely.
then.
Yeah.
He had to fight hard to have that. And then, of course, I had to watch him watching Alien
Oh, well, yeah.
for the
Wait,
first time. It was just like,
Is he watching it live as you're watching him watch it?
He
Or is
has
it
clips.
rendered?
He has clips and him reacting to clips.
Mhm.
Yeah, he about fell on the floor with the, morons.
That is fucking Gene Wilder, man. Gene Wilder was so damn good at exactly that. He's like, just true salt of the earth, humble folk. Morons. And it's delivered so well, and it kills me every single time.
He does this whole, like, in The Producers, there's just a scene where he's freaking out, and it's my favorite, because he's just like, I'm upset! And then, like, what's his name, like, spills water at him, and he's like, I'm upset! And I'm wet! And he just keeps, and then he just starts screaming. It makes no sense
It doesn't. But
why
it
it's
works.
funny.
It's
But
like
it kills me.
in Young
These
Frankenstein.
two guys playing off each other is just, it was perfect. We haven't watched The Producers yet.
Frankenstein.
In Young Frankenstein, there's a moment where he's talking about having to put the body together and everything, and he had to scale everything up. And then you get the one lady's reaction. She's like, he must have an enormous Schwanstücke. And Gene Wilder's reaction is great. He's like, well, I mean, that would make sense. And it's just, his delivery of it kills me every single time. Now I want to go watch Young Frankenstein.
It is
Young
the season.
Frankenstein, Blazing Saddles, Spaceballs, Robin Hood Men in Tights, the classics.
Dracula
Robin Hood.
Dead and Loving It.
There you go.
No.
Yes.
No. I don't have to watch that again. I watched
made-
it once.
You made us watch Repossessed.
I made you?
Possessed.
I didn't make you watch
That's
that.
the third movie in the
That
Repo
wasn't even
Man
my
trilogy.
choice.
It wasn't your
Well,
choice.
funny thing is
Whose choice
this
was
was
it?
supposed to be a trilogy.
It was somewhere
This
between
is the
Faith.
middle of a trilogy.
Oh yeah, well, that'll never happen because Lionsgate owns the rights.
Mm-hmm.
They lost the rights to Repo, the genetic
Lionsgate.
opera.
I was looking at that and I'm like, how protected do you think that gate is with a lion?
I do feel bad for them in that they put the money up
he was
to
gonna
do
answer for
a
a second.
theatrical release, and then they get 7 screens and like no publicity for it at all. Granted, this would have been a hard movie to market to a mass audience.
Yeah.
I think it would have hit the goths,
No,
right?
thanks.
And stuff. Like, there's definitely
Is there a market for it? Yes. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
like, mass
yeah.
appeal.
Oh no, it would have been very hard, but yeah. It's just like when we talked about the stuff and how it had the issue with the releasing and the whatnot.
Yeah.
That definitely, I think, would have done better though. People loved cheesy horror movies in the 80s. That was a thing. This was 2008. I don't know what was going on in 2008. I couldn't tell you. I could not tell you.
Well,
When was Matrix?
Wash.
Matrix?
Yeah.
It was 99.
Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
that was way earlier.
Yeah,
that
don't think
movie
about
is older
stuff
than
like
we
that.
want to know.
Uh-huh.
Well,
Didn't
that's the thing,
Jurassic
Ace.
Park
It really
came out in
was.
2008.
It was an
or
instant cult
something?
classic. As soon as it got released on DVD, it became a cult classic. But
Yeah.
2008. Let's see. Movies of 2008. What else came out that year? Because I know there was stuff.
Didn't we have the Thing remake?
That,
Prequel.
was that 2009? No, that
well-
was 2011.
The Prom
Damn
Night
it.
remake was 2008. The
Oh,
Day the
God,
Earth
wait,
Stood
didn't that
Still
have Paris?
remake. Prom Night might have. Wanted.
Wanted.
Mm.
I liked Wanted.
Yes. Curve your bullet.
Hey, it could happen.
And let's make an entire movie out of it.
You know what though? I will say this. While the movie itself was just okay, I personally liked my comment when Monica and I talked to Scott about it for Wait You Haven't Seen, where I said, Scott, how long do you think this movie would have been if they hadn't used any slow-mo? So if there's been no slow motion in that movie, it's probably like 25 minutes long.
Yeah.
There's
a
much
lot of
slow-mo
slow-mo.
in that movie.
But the movie starts out real strong because there's a dude that jumps from one building to another.
Oh yeah.
And that's enough to like keep you going and like
Okay.
what kind of world is this? There's
So-
magic in the world. There's magic.
2008. So here's some movies that came out in 2008. All right, Kung Fu Panda,
Never saw it.
Nah.
which the first Kung Fu Panda I like quite a bit. Hancock, Iron Man, Wall-E.
Ooh, Iron Man.
A little movie that you might have heard of called The Dark Knight. I don't know exactly
No.
what that one's about.
Doesn't ring a
but
bell.
Yeah. Apparently that came out that year. Quantum of Solace.
I remember that.
So Indiana Jones and
Not,
the Kingdom
not
of the
that
Crystal
movie.
Skull.
I remembered.
Oh, yeah.
In a movie that
best
doesn't
Indiana
exist?
Jones movie of all.
What movie?
But there was,
Crystal Skull.
there were good movies that came out that year. It's when we started the MCU, for crying out loud.
It didn't start that strong now.
Iron Man?
I thought MCU started with Hulk.
I remember.
Iron
Or
Man.
the Incredible Hulk.
Iron Man came out
That one doesn't
before the
count.
Incredible Hulk.
Thing.
Okay.
I
Yeah, there was
remember
the
this
Hulk movie before that doesn't count anymore.
No.
because at
Ang
and now
Lee's
I'm-
Hulk did not count.
I'm remembering that I was dating my ex who worked at the movie theater. So I went to see whatever movie I wanted whenever I wanted.
Mhm.
And so I've seen Quantum of Solace in the movie theater only because it was free, and I just happened to be there. And I remember Dark Knight was like, but I never saw Batman Begins, so I was like, you know what? What's the point of watching that? And
I remember seeing Dark Knight. There was a huge line outside the theater for that one. But I had seen Batman Begins a couple years earlier, so
yeah, I didn't watch it till like 2012, 2014.
Okay. Oh, One Missed Call was that year.
I missed that one.
Ooh.
The original or the remake?
That's the one with the where the girl's in the trunk, or Kim Basinger is on the phone or something, right?
Maybe. It was also the year that In the Name of the King came out, which that was bad.
Oof. Dungeon Siege.
It's difficult to find a movie with a better cast that was worse than that. I mean, listen to this here's what happens when you can get tax breaks to make your movie, is you can pay the actors. And so you get Jason Statham, Leelee Sobieski, Ron Perlman, John Rhys Davies, Claire Forlani, Matthew Lillard. Who else was in that? Ray Liotta, Burt Reynolds.
What movie was this?
It's called In the Name of the King. It was based on the video game Dungeon Siege.
Oh.
Yeah.
It was an Uwe
never
Boll.
heard of this.
It's an Uwe Boll movie. So.
Oh God.
Mm-hmm.
That alone should say everything.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Cloverfield came out 2008. That was good. I remember seeing that in theaters.
Yep. I saw that one.
The reboot, or the not really reboot, but Rambo, like Rambo 4, I think.
Huh. Don't think I ever saw that, actually.
Never seen a single Rambo movie.
Here's what
my.
So my thoughts on
Rocky,
Rambo
yes.
is like,
Rambo, no.
First Blood is so different from the rest of the Rambo franchise. Like, First Blood is this really great movie. And then they make the second one, and they go from this interesting idea of like a vet coming back from Vietnam and being treated poorly by like the locals and the local sheriff especially, and to turning him into like this superhero. And it goes in this wildly different direction. Like the body count of the first Rambo movie is 1. And it's not even somebody that Rambo kills. He gets knocked off of a helicopter and falls to his death. And then he becomes this superhero in Afghanistan or something in the rest of the movies. Yeah. And it doesn't make any sense at all. And by this 2008 Rambo movie, he's just mowing people down.
I always found it amusing that they call that First Blood Part 2.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Because
not Second Blood, or no, First Blood Part 2. Okay.
Oh, In Bruges came out in 2008. That's a great movie.
Hey, that's me-ish. That's down the road.
I cannot wait to see his new movie, Martin McDonagh's new one, the one that's got Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson in it again. What the hell is it called? It is, hold on, I'll find it, because I saw the trailer for it and it looked great. The Banshees of Inisherin comes out this year. There's somebody who doesn't have a lot of films to his name as far as being a director, but In Bruges, 7 Psychopaths, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, and then this movie. It's pretty good.
That's how these people work now.
Jumper. Ooh, Step Up 2 was 2008.
Step Up to the Streets. Read it correctly, Travis.
But Be Kind Rewind. That's a good one.
Oh, there's an example of a movie I was so hyped for, and I liked it, but it was never as good as I thought it was going to be. And never went anywhere.
Any of the Star Wars sequels?
Any of you ever see Vantage Point? Does that sound familiar at all?
Isn't that the one that had a poster with like 6 different actors?
No, because it's got Dennis Quaid, Matthew Fox, Forrest Whitaker, Sigourney Weaver.
So it showed like 6 different main actors because
Yeah.
there were different. That's all I remember of that movie because the theater that I was
That's
at.
a good one. Zoe Saldana is in it. Forgot she was in that. Oh man, there was some decent. City of Men came out in 2008. I mean, they're not all great, but Doomsday. Oh, anyone see Doomsday?
Which Doomsday?
Oh,
The one that came out in
that's like a
2008.
very
It's
generic
got
title.
Rona Mitra, Bob Hoskins. It's set in Scotland. They have like Scotland walled off, and she's got to break in there to get some sort of cure or something out. It's Neil Marshall. It's pretty good. It's like it's got a very Mad Max feel to it. It's got that kind of post-apocalyptic thing going on. But it's Neil Marshall, so it's bloody as all hell.
All right, I've got to get to bed.
Yeah, go to
Yeah.
sleep.
No.
I gotta be up at 4 a.m.
Stay.
Oh, jeez.
Stay.
Bye, all. Have a good night.
Bye.
Noodles.
Friday.
Oh no, they left.
They all left.
Now we're all out of sync in the thing.
Oh no. What have I
Oh
done?
no.
What have I done?
Now you're me. You're me. Well, your head is me.
There, how's that? That's better. All right. And I don't know if you saw my comment in the Gore Discord, but I'm finding that the more I think about Halloween Ends, the more I can kind of like it as its standalone. My biggest issue with it is it doesn't fit what the direction everything was going in. Like, everything was going this one way, and then this movie doesn't go there. But just on its own, if you divorced it from everything else and just let it be its own movie, I think it's actually pretty good. I understand that. And they haven't really said there will be more movies. There won't be more movies from David Gordon Green and Laurie Strode. Because the problem, the thing there is it's whoever owns the rights that decides if another movie gets made. I mean, John Carpenter would have stopped after one movie. I don't know. But, you know, you can say that they won't die after for a horror icon about any of them. It doesn't matter who they are. They can always find some way to bring them back. I mean, you watch the end of Halloween 2, and he's definitively dead at the end of that. He's been shot in the face twice and burned alive. Like, but they brought him back. So there's a cool I think it's on Shudder I watched last night where they have they're like 45-minute long documentary episodes on horror icons. So they have one on Michael Myers, one on Jason, one on Chucky, and it was really cool to watch the one on Michael Myers because they talked to Carpenter, they talked to Jamie Lee Curtis, they talked to Nick Castle. Like Nick Castle telling the story about how he became the Shape on the first movie, where he was just like, yeah, I went to film school with John in like 67, 68 at University of Southern California. And he was making the movie, and I found out they were shooting it like 2 miles from where I lived. And so I called him up and I'm like, hey, would it be cool if I just kind of dropped by set and just sort of see a movie getting made? Like, because I'm going to be working on one here soon. And he's like, I just went there and I was on set just to kind of like take some of the mystique away from it and just be ready for when I start my movie. And John's like, you know, we need somebody to be the Shape. Do you want to just do that? All you got to do is like put on a mask and walk. And he's like, that's pretty much how it came about. You know, and now he's like, he's the Shape. So funny. All right. Well, anyway. Yeah. Also, cool thing I love about the first Halloween movie is that Nick Castle went on to direct The Last Starfighter. So, Michael Myers directed The Last Starfighter. That's how it goes. Anywho, I'm going to call it a night. I'm going to wrap it up and go to bed. Try to get some sleep. It's what, like 8 in the morning for you now or something? 3:30. Oh. Yeah, lucky you. I got to wait a couple weeks, but I have Halloween day off. I took that day off of work. So I might have to come up with a stream to do that day or something. Anywho, thanks everybody for hanging out in the chat room. And we'll catch you all later. Bye.